What's up, guys? I'm Digi Dustin, and today I am going to be talking about color synergy and why Digimon is setting itself up to be one of the best launch card games that I have seen in a long time. So, how do you enter an oversaturated market where there's new card games all the time, where companies like Bushiroad are flinging out a new card game every year? Well, when we seen the first three trial decks, the card game seemed a little simple. However, it was already looking pretty good. We saw extra security attacks, restanding, and DP power reduction. Usually card games don't start out like this. Usually card games take their basic premise, the most simple concepts they can, and enhance them a little through the use of cards. They basically give players training wheels to learn the card game, and after that, the next set will increase those abilities a little bit, make them a little stronger, and as the game progresses, we'll see new abilities, and because of this slow inclination of abilities, we tend to get power creep pretty quickly because we don't have a lot to work with and we're only slowly obtaining new things. With the Digimon card game, we're seeing almost an opposite way of handling things. We are getting overwhelmed with different abilities right off the bat. However, because of that, cards from the starter deck, cards from set 1, chances are they're going to last a long time, and chances are the cards that are useful from those sets are going to be in constant flux because we might be seeing abilities now that don't work that well with other cards. However, as new cards come out, those abilities might become more powerful. Now with the latest reveals, we saw two new colors, black and purple. And what I ended up noticing right away is that the color synergy within this game so far is on point. It feels like every card that comes out, even though we are seeing so many different abilities, even though it seems chaotic and like they're just going ham and are going to burn themselves out, it seems as if they have a very good development team behind the card game. So let's look at purple real quick. We see Devamon, who has a pretty decent cost and an Evo ability, but when he attacks something or is attacked, he will take that Digimon down with him, and he passes this along. We see it with Piedmon too, and Piedmon can summon more of them. He can flood the field or so, and Impmon over here is the start of what I believe will be more discarding abilities and self-milling abilities. Now, the reason this is all really important is because if we look at the DP of these Vengeance Digimon, we end up noticing that they're a little bit lower than everybody else's. And this just happens to coincide with a lot of Yellow's abilities that reduce DP. And Yellow's DP reduction has always been a little easier to do than most because usually it can't kill anything. However, in the case between Yellow and Purple, we see that it ends up triggering almost every time, and this is kind of neat as thematically Yellow and Purple are on opposite ends of the Digimon spectrum lore-wise, but it doesn't just stop at Yellow. So ignoring lore for a bit, we notice that while Purple seemingly crumbles under Yellow, to be seen, it also seems to have a bad matchup against Red, as we now have red cards that specifically punish the opponent for having a lot of cards in their trash. I don't think this ability is going to specifically refer to Purple only. I believe that Red will get cards to support this ability. If not, Gallantmon as a whole is going to be kind of odd as a purple counter. If purple becomes the new best deck in the format, I suppose he'll be good to run, but unless we see cards that mill your opponent, it'll be kind of odd. But however, we see that purple is also pretty good against specific Digimon. Like if we look at Machine Draymon or Algamon or other greens such as Rosemon, defensive decks like these who use beefy Digimon to shut the opponent down, purple can just attack them. If Machine Draymon tries to get in even Devimon's way, he's still going to be end up sent to the discard pile because of Devimon's punishing ability. And this happens in green too, and green can't really afford this as level 6 is where all of their best cards shine. Now blue, both of them seem to have slight flood mechanics. Blue is a rush deck, so to be seen on how these two interact, but even if blue ends up being a neutral pick against purple, it is worth mentioning that they have 2 bad matchups and 2 good matchups in terms of color. Black, we still don't know enough to say how they're going to interact with all of the colors. However, they are an extremely defensive deck with lots of blockers and way to change the tempo of the game through Digivolution. Now, this is important as this means that they are a true counter of sorts to red, not in the sense of defeating red necessarily. I believe that it's going to be an even matchup, but in the sense that a lot of people say that red is a aggro deck, but that's not necessarily true. Red has always been more of a tempo control deck that tries to keep the opponent under control until they hit their strongest monsters, such as from the trial deck. I know it's not the best War Greymon, but for every Digivolution source he gets 1 security, so he can be bumped up to 5 security and just wipe the opponent clean in 1 attack and win the game. Or Omnimon and now Gallantmon and so on. They try to manipulate the flow of the game through cards that destroy your opponent's Digimon, while Machine Draymon is here, and we also have Andromon and a lot of blockers who get in the way of Red's endgame, but also have Digivolution to say that while Red may have controlled the tempo up to this point, they don't anymore. But ignoring that 1-for-1, Black also seems to have an advantage against Blue, as Blue is a multi-attacking deck. They, instead of focusing on getting beefy, they either focus on attacking a lot of times or flooding the field. In either case, if we see enough blockers out, that will really hinder Blue's movements. As said before, it looks like Purple's going to be a strong counter pick to Black. Yellow versus Black sounds extremely grating to watch. It might be fun to play, however, seeing Yellow heal and Black block, that'll be something. I'm going to assume this is similar to what I'm saying for Red, a neutral pick though. And Green will also be a neutral pick. It really seems like Black doesn't have a lot of advantages or disadvantages against decks, with one that they clearly seem to lose to and one that they have a clear advantage over. But that's not bad, as long as it's 1-for-1 or a 2-for-2 as we saw with Purple, and the rest are neutral matchups. That's a good color. Now when Green came out, they didn't really know their place. They seemed like a slightly defensive deck that wanted to get to their level 6s quickly, and when they did, they had the power to end games. However, it's not until Algamon appeared where we saw a clear route up to level 6s. So, seeing how that actually affects their gameplay right now will be interesting. I still believe that they're going to have a weak matchup against purple, and I'm not sure how that will affect them against, honestly, any of these other decks. Hopefully it gives them the boost they need to be more prevalent in the meta. Yellow is now focusing on what seems to be a new tactic with yellow tamers. I don't think there's too much to say about the red, blue, yellow matchup. Yellow was always meant to be a counter for blue, who was meant to be a counter for red, who was meant to be a counter for yellow. However, it didn't necessarily pan out that way, as yellow wasn't really clear on what it was doing. Hopefully, as we get new yellow cards and yellow tamers and whatnot, we'll see some end game goals, winning images to net them victories. But even without them, I still believe that they're just going to overtake purple because their abilities seem designed specifically to take down purple. And blue and red, their matchup is still relatively the same. It can go one way or the other, depending on who gets where first. I don't think these new cards are going to necessarily change that very much. I am really excited by what I'm seeing. Until next time, guys, stay wholesome.